Jake Morrison stood against the wall of the grand dining hall. His black suit was simple and clean. His hands hung at his sides. He watched the room full of aliens and humans eating their fancy dinner. The ship called Celestial Dawn floated in, space above a planet. Inside the ship, important people from many worlds were having a meeting. They wanted to make deals about trade and peace. Jake was there to keep the human diplomats safe. The dining hall was huge. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling. The tables were made of some kind of blue metal that sparkled. Aliens of all shapes and sizes sat at the tables. Some had fur. Some had scales. Some looked almost human but with different colored skin. Jake's job was simple. Stand quietly, watch for trouble, keep Ambassador Helen Cross safe. She was the most important human on the ship. She spoke for Earth in these meetings. At the biggest table in the center sat Princess Lirelei Vexthara. She was tall and beautiful. Her skin was blue like crystal. Her hair was silver and fell to her shoulders. She wore a dress that cost more than most people made in a year. Jewels covered her neck and arms. Princess Lirelei was the daughter of the Zephyrian Emperor. Her people ruled a big part of the galaxy. They thought they were better than everyone else, especially humans. Jake had been watching her all evening. She spoke loudly. She laughed at things that were not funny. She pointed at other aliens and made jokes about them. But she saved her worst words for humans. Look at them, Princess Lirelei said to the alien sitting next to her. Her voice carried across the room. The humans think they belong here with real civilizations. The alien next to her was from a world called Draconis. He had green scales and yellow eyes. He nodded and smiled at her words. They have been in space for what, a few hundred years? Princess Lirelei continued. We have been traveling between stars for thousands of years, yet they sit at our table like equals. Ambassador Cross kept eating her food. Her face showed nothing. But Jake saw her jaw get tight. He felt his own anger start to rise. I heard, Princess Lirelei said even louder, that they claim to be warriors. Can you believe that? Those soft little creatures think they can fight. She stood up from her chair. Her dress made a rustling sound. The room got quiet. Everyone turned to look at her. In fact, she said with a big smile, I see one of their so-called protectors right there. She pointed right at Jake. All eyes in the room turned to him. Jake did not move. He kept his face calm. You there, human? Princess Lirelei called out. Yes, you in the cheap suit. Come here. Ambassador Cross looked worried. She shook her head, slightly at Jake. But Jake knew he had to obey. The princess was too important to ignore. Jake walked across the room. His footsteps were quiet on the smooth floor. He stopped a few feet from the princess's table. What is your name, little human? Princess Lirelei asked. Jake Morrison, Your Highness, he said. His voice was calm and steady. Jake Morrison, she repeated. She made his name sound like a joke. And what do you do, Jake Morrison? I provide security for the Earth delegation, Your Highness. Princess Lirelei laughed. It was not a nice laugh. Security? Do you hear that, everyone? This small, weak creature provides security. Other aliens in the room started to whisper. Some of them smiled. Jake could tell they were enjoying the show. Tell me, Jake Morrison, Princess Lirelei said. How exactly do you plan to protect anyone? You look like a strong wind could knock you over. Jake said nothing. He had learned long ago when to speak and when to stay quiet. This was a time to stay quiet. I have heard, Princess Lirelei continued, that humans think they are tough, that they can fight. Is this true? Some humans can fight, Your Highness, Jake said. Some humans. She laughed again. How modest. Can you fight, Jake Morrison? If I need to, Your Highness. Princess Lirelei clapped her hands together. Wonderful, then you will not mind proving it. She gestured to 3 large aliens standing behind her chair. They were Zephyrians like her, but much bigger. They wore armor that was both beautiful and deadly. Each one was over 7 feet tall. Their muscles bulged under their armor. These are my personal guards, Princess Lirelei said. The finest warriors in the Zephyrian Empire. Surely a human warrior would not be afraid to face them. The room went completely silent. Jake could hear the hum of the ship's engines. He could hear his own heartbeat. Ambassador Cross started to stand up. "Your Highness, this is not necessary." "Nonsense." Princess Lyrelai cut her off. "Your man claims humans can fight. Let him prove it. Unless, of course, he is too afraid." Jake looked at the 3 guards. They were indeed huge. Their armor was real, not just for show. These were trained killers. But Jake had faced worse odds before. He looked back at Princess Lyrelai. Her blue eyes sparkled with mean joy. She thought she was about to humiliate him, about to prove that humans were weak. "I accept, Your Highness," Jake said quietly. The princess smiled wide. "Excellent. Guards, please show our guests some Zephyrian hospitality." Other aliens in the room started to whisper excitedly. Some began, placing bets on how quickly the human would fall. Most gave Jake less than 10 seconds. Jake slowly removed his jacket. He folded it carefully and set it on a nearby chair. Under the jacket, his white shirt showed his lean but strong frame. His arms were corded with muscle. His hands were scarred from years of training and fighting. One of the Zephyrian guards stepped forward. He was the biggest of the 3. His armor was decorated with symbols of rank and honor. "I am Commander Vrak," the guard said. His voice was deep and threatening. "I have killed many enemies of the Empire. You will be just another." Jake said nothing. He rolled his shoulders and stretched his neck. Old habits from his military days. Princess Lyrelai raised her hand. "Begin when I drop my hand," she said. The 3 guards spread out in a half circle around Jake. They moved with the confidence of warriors who had never lost a fight. The aliens watching held their breath. Ambassador Cross gripped her napkin so tight her knuckles turned white. Princess Lyrelai's hand hung in the air for a moment. Her smile was cruel and satisfied. She was about to watch a human get beaten badly. It would prove everything she believed about humans being weak. "Now," she said, and dropped her hand. What happened next would change everything between humans and Zephyrians forever. Jake had spent years learning to fight. Not just human fighting, but alien fighting too. He had studied how different species moved, how they thought, where they were strong and where they were weak. The 3 seconds that followed would shock everyone in that room, and they would make Princess Lyrelai see humans in a completely new way. Princess Lyrelai's hand fell through the air. The moment it dropped, everything changed. Commander Vrak charged forward like a bull. He was fast for his size, but Jake was faster. Jake had fought big enemies before. He knew their weakness was their confidence. Jake stepped to the side just as Vrak reached him. The big guard's momentum carried him forward. He could not stop. Jake used this against him. In one smooth motion, Jake grabbed Vrak's arm and used the guard's own speed to spin him around. Before Vrak could recover, Jake struck a precise spot at the base of his neck. It was a nerve cluster that worked the same way in Zephyrians as in humans. Vrak's eyes rolled back. His huge body crumpled to the floor like a sack of rocks. 1 second had passed. The second guard was already moving. His name was Theron. He pulled out a ceremonial staff from his belt. It was made of some kind of metal that glowed blue. He swung it at Jake's head. Jake ducked under the swing. As the staff passed over him, he grabbed it with both hands. Theron was strong, but Jake knew leverage. He twisted the staff in a way that put pressure on Theron's wrists. The guard's grip broke. Jake now held the staff. Without wasting time, he swept Theron's legs with one end of the staff. As the guard fell, Jake hit him in the chest with the other end. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to knock the wind out of him. Theron hit the floor gasping for air. He would live, but he would not get up for a while. 2 seconds had passed. The third guard was named Korath. He had watched his 2 friends fall in just 2 seconds. He hesitated. This hesitation cost him. Jake moved like lightning. He dropped the staff and stepped close to Korath. The guard was still processing what had happened to his friends. By the time he started to react, it was too late. Jake slipped behind him and put his arm around Korath's thick neck. It was a sleeper hold, but modified for Zephyrian anatomy. Jake had studied their physiology. He knew exactly where to apply pressure. Korath struggled for a moment. His hands clawed at Jake's arm. But Jake's hold was perfect. The guard's struggles got weaker. Then they stopped. Korath went limp in Jake's arms. Jake lowered him gently to the floor. All 3 guards were down. 3 seconds had passed. The dining hall was completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Every alien in the room stared at Jake with wide eyes. Some had their mouths hanging open. Princess Lyrelay stood frozen beside her table. Her face had gone pale. Her blue skin looked almost white. The cruel smile was gone. In its place was pure shock. Jake straightened his shirt and checked on the 3 guards. Commander Vrak was starting to wake up. Jake helped him sit up. "You will be fine," Jake said quietly. "Just rest for a moment." He did the same for the other 2 guards. He checked them for injuries, made sure they could breathe properly. His touch was gentle and professional. The 3 Zephyrian warriors looked at Jake with new respect. They had expected a savage beating. Instead, Jake had defeated them without seriously hurting them. This was the mark of a true warrior. Jake walked back to where he had left his jacket. He put it on and straightened his tie. Then he returned to his position against the wall. He stood there as if nothing had happened. The silence stretched on. Finally, Ambassador Cross cleared her throat. "Perhaps we should continue with dinner," she said diplomatically. Slowly, conversation began again. But it was different now. The aliens kept glancing at Jake. They whispered to each other. Some looked scared, others looked impressed. Princess Lyrelay sat down heavily in her chair. She had not said a word since the fight ended. Her eyes kept drifting to Jake. She was trying to understand what she had just seen. All her life, she had been taught that Zephyrians were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Her guards were the best of the best. They had never lost a fight. Yet this quiet human had defeated all 3 of them in seconds, and he had done it without anger, without hatred. He had fought like a professional, clean, efficient, controlled. The alien from Draconis leaned over to her. "Your Highness," he whispered. "Perhaps we have underestimated the humans." Princess Lyrelay did not answer. She was thinking about everything she thought she knew about humans, about their weakness, their inferiority. The fight had shattered those beliefs in 3 seconds. As the dinner continued, she found herself studying Jake. He stood perfectly still against the wall. His eyes moved constantly, watching for threats. He was doing his job, protecting his people. She noticed things she had missed before. The way he held himself spoke of years of training. His hands had scars that told stories of battles fought. His eyes were alert and intelligent. This was not some primitive creature pretending to be civilized. This was a warrior, a real one. After dinner, the guests began to leave. Princess Lyrelay walked past Jake on her way out. She stopped beside him. "Jake Morrison," she said quietly. "Your Highness," he replied with a small bow. "That was impressive," she said. The words seemed hard for her to say. "Thank you, Your Highness." She wanted to say more, to ask questions, to understand how he had done what he did, but her pride would not let her. "Not yet. My guards will want to speak with you," she said instead. They would like to learn from you." Jake nodded. "I would be honored to share what I know, Your Highness." Princess Lyrelay studied his face. There was no smugness there, no pride in his victory, just quiet professionalism. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "I have been mistaken about some things." With that, she walked away. But Jake's demonstration had planted a seed in her mind, a seed that would grow over the coming days. That night, Princess Lyrelay could not sleep. She kept seeing those 3 seconds over and over in her mind. The way Jake moved, the precision of his strikes, the control he showed. She had called him weak, primitive, inferior. But he had proven her wrong in the most public way possible. For the first time in her life, Princess Lirelli began to question what she had been taught about other species, about humans in particular. She got up and walked to her window. Outside, stars filled the darkness of space. Somewhere among those stars was Earth, the home of Jake Morrison and billions of other humans. Maybe, she thought, there was more to them than she had ever imagined. The next morning brought news that would test this new understanding. Pirates had been spotted near the trade routes. The summit might be in danger. Princess Lirelei would soon learn that Jake Morrison's skills went far beyond defeating guards in a dining hall. And she would learn that sometimes, the universe has a way of forcing enemies to become allies. The 3 seconds in the dining hall were just the beginning. 3 days passed since the fight in the dining hall. Princess Lirelei had avoided Jake Morrison during that time. She felt confused and angry at herself. The human had made her question everything she believed. The peace talks were going well. Different species were making deals about trade and mining rights. Ambassador Cross seemed pleased with the progress. Jake continued his duties. He watched the crowds. He checked security reports. He stayed alert for trouble. The trouble came on the 4th morning. Jake was escorting a group of diplomats to a meeting room when the ship shook violently. Emergency lights began flashing red. An alarm started blaring. All passengers, remain calm, came a voice over the ship's speakers. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Jake knew better. This was not technical trouble. This was an attack. He quickly moved the diplomats to a secure room and locked the door. Then he grabbed his communication device. Control, this is Morrison. What's our situation? Static answered him. The communications were being jammed. Jake's training kicked in. First rule of an attack. The enemy always cuts communications first. He made his way to the nearest viewing port. Outside, he could see small attack ships swarming around the celestial dawn. They were dark and ugly, built for war, not beauty. Jake recognized them. Korthak Syndicate raiders. They were criminals who attacked diplomatic ships and kidnapped important people for ransom. The ship shook again. This time, Jake heard the sound of metal being cut. The raiders were boarding. He needed to reach the main security center. From there, he could coordinate the defense. But first, he had to make sure Ambassador Cross was safe. Jake ran through the corridors. Other passengers were panicking. Some aliens were screaming. Others were trying to hide. The ship's own security guards were rushing around, but they looked confused and scared. Another explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered and went out. Emergency power came on, bathing everything in red light. Jake reached the ambassador's quarters. The door was locked. He used his security code to open it. Ambassador Cross? He called out. No answer. The room was empty. Jake's heart sank. Either she had escaped, or the raiders had already taken her. He heard footsteps behind him. Jake spun around, ready to fight. But it was not a raider. It was Princess Lirelei. She looked nothing like the proud royal from the dining hall. Her hair was messy, her dress was torn, her blue skin was pale with fear. Jake Morrison, she said, breathing hard. Thank the stars I found you. Your Highness, what are you doing here? Where are your guards? Dead, she said simply. The raiders killed them when they tried to protect me. I barely escaped. Jake felt a chill. If her elite guards were dead, the situation was very bad. We need to get you to safety, Jake said. There's a secure room on deck 7. We can... Another explosion cut him off. This one was closer. Jake could hear laser fire and screaming from somewhere nearby. The secure room is 7 decks away, Princess Lirelei said. We'll never make it. Yes, we will, Jake said firmly. But I need you to follow my orders exactly. Can you do that? Princess Lirelei started to object. She was royalty. She did not take orders from humans. But then she remembered the 3 seconds in the dining hall. This human knew how to fight, how to survive. Yes, she said quietly. I can do that. Jake quickly checked his equipment. He had a small energy pistol, some basic tools. Not much for a war, but it would have to do. Stay close to me, he told her. Do exactly what I do. If I say run, you run. If I say hide, you hide. If I say fight, you pick up the nearest weapon and help me. Understood? Understood. They left the ambassador's quarters together. The corridor was filled with smoke. Somewhere ahead, Jake could hear the heavy footsteps of raiders in battle armor. Jake led Princess Lyrelei in the opposite direction. He knew another route to Deck 7. It was longer, but safer. They moved quietly through the ship's maintenance areas. These passages were narrow and dark, but the raiders had not found them yet. How do you know about these passages? Princess Lyrelei whispered. I studied the ship's blueprints before we left Earth, Jake replied. Always have an escape plan. They crawled through a ventilation shaft. It was cramped and hot. Princess Lyrelei's fancy dress kept getting caught on things, but she did not complain. When they reached the other side, Jake listened carefully before opening the exit. He could hear voices nearby, Korthak raiders speaking in their harsh language. Jake understood some of their words. They were looking for high-value targets, politicians, royalty, people they could sell for big money. Princess Lyrelei was exactly what they wanted. Jake made a quick decision. He pulled out some tools and began working on a piece of broken pipe. Within minutes, he had fashioned a crude but effective weapon. What is that? Princess Lyrelei asked. A stunner, Jake said. It won't kill, but it will knock someone unconscious for a while. You made that from scrap metal? Humans are good at improvising, Jake said. It was the first time he had shown any pride in his species. They continued through the ship. Twice they had to hide from raider patrols. Once Jake had to use his improvised weapon on a lone raider who discovered them. The alien dropped silently. Princess Lyrelei watched in amazement. This human seemed to know exactly what to do in every situation. He was calm under pressure, creative when faced with problems, deadly when threatened. These were not the qualities of a primitive creature. Jake, she said during a quiet moment, I owe you an apology. For what, Your Highness? For what I said in the dining hall, about humans being weak, primitive. I was wrong. Jake looked at her in the red emergency light. Your Highness, we can discuss this later. Right now we need to focus on staying alive. But Princess Lyrelei needed to say more. I have been taught my whole life that Zephyrians are superior to all other species, that we are smarter, stronger, better in every way. But you are not what I was taught to expect. People are individuals, Jake said simply. Judge each person by their actions, not by their species. They reached Deck 5. Only 2 more levels to go. But as they entered the main corridor, they heard something that made Jake's blood run cold. Screaming. Human screaming. Ambassador Cross was somewhere nearby and she was in trouble. Jake faced a terrible choice. He could continue to the safe room with Princess Lyrelei, keep her alive and complete his mission, or he could try to save his ambassador and risk both their lives. Princess Lyrelei saw the conflict in his eyes. She is your leader, she said. Your friend, go save her. I can't leave you alone. The raiders will find me eventually anyway, Princess Lyrelei finished. But you might be able to save her, and maybe working together we can save everyone. Jake looked at her with new respect. The spoiled princess was gone. In her place stood someone brave enough to risk her life for others. All right, Jake said. But we do this together. I'm not leaving you behind. Princess Lyrelei smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had given him. Together, she agreed. They moved toward the screaming, ready to face whatever waited for them. The proud alien princess and the quiet human warrior united against a common enemy. The galaxy was about to learn that some partnerships were stronger than any individual power. Jake and Princess Lyrelei moved carefully down the corridor toward the screaming. The sound had stopped, which made Jake even more worried. Silence could mean Ambassador Cross was safe, or it could mean something much worse. They reached a junction, where 3 hallways met. Jake held up his hand for Princess Lyrelei to stop. He listened carefully. Voices. Korthak raiders talking to each other. Jake could make out some words. They had prisoners. They were deciding what to do with them. Jake peered around the corner. 5 raiders stood guard outside a storage room. Inside, he could see several figures tied up. One of them had gray hair. Ambassador Cross. 5 guards, Jake whispered to Princess Lirelai. Too many for a direct fight. What do we do? She asked. Jake thought for a moment. Then he smiled. We use their greed against them. He explained his plan quickly. Princess, Lirelai's eyes went wide. That's very risky, she said. Do you have a better idea? She thought about it. Actually, yes, but it requires me to use the ship's computer system. Can you get me to a terminal? Jake was surprised. You know computer systems? I know Zephyrian. Systems. This ship has Zephyrian computers. My father made sure I learned how our technology works. Jake realized he had made another assumption about her. He had thought she was just a spoiled princess, but she was educated, trained, useful. There's a terminal around the corner, Jake said. But it's close to the guards. I can be very quiet when I need to be, Princess Lirelai said. They moved together. Jake kept watch while Princess Lirelai worked at the computer terminal. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. What are you doing? Jake whispered. Creating a distraction, she replied, and gathering information. Suddenly, alarms began going off all over the ship. But these were not the emergency alarms. These were proximity warnings. The computer was saying that more ships were approaching. The Korthak raiders became nervous. They started talking quickly among themselves. Were these reinforcements, or was it the Zephyrian Navy coming to help? 3 of the 5 guards left to check on the new signals. That left only 2 guards watching the prisoners. Much better odds, Jake said. But Princess Lirelai was still working at the terminal. Her face had gone pale again. Jake, she said quietly, we have a bigger problem. What? The attack was not random. Someone gave the raiders detailed information about this ship, about who was on board, about our security systems. Jake felt cold. An inside job. Yes, and according to these records, the information came from someone in my own delegation. Princess Lirelai looked sick. Someone I trust betrayed us, betrayed me. Jake put a gentle hand on her shoulder. We'll figure out who later. Right. Now let's save the ambassador. They moved toward the 2 remaining guards. Jake took one from behind with his improvised stunner. Princess Lirelai surprised the other guard by grabbing a piece of broken metal and hitting him in the head. The guard collapsed. Princess Lirelai looked at her hands in amazement. I have never hit anyone before, she said. You did good, Jake told her. Natural fighter instincts. They freed the prisoners. Ambassador Cross was hurt but alive. So were 3 other diplomats from different worlds. Jake, Ambassador Cross said with relief. How did you find us? Long story. We need to get you all to safety first. But Princess Lirelai was still at the computer terminal. Jake, look at this. The screen showed a map of the ship. Red dots marked where the raiders were located. But more importantly, it showed their plan. They're not just here for random kidnapping, Princess Lirelai said. They're planning to destroy the ship. Make it look like the humans did it. Jake studied the display. That would destroy the peace talks. Start a war between your people and mine. Exactly. And look who authorized the information transfer. A name appeared on the screen. General Corvin Thex. Princess Lirelai's face went white. That's impossible, she whispered. General Thex trained me. He's been my father's advisor for 20 years. He would never. People aren't always what they seem, Jake said gently. Even people we trust. Princess Lirelai sat down heavily. Jake could see her world was falling apart. Everything she believed about loyalty and trust was being shattered. Why would he do this? She asked. Jake looked at the computer data. He's been talking to extremist groups in your empire, people who think your father is too soft on other species, too willing to make peace with inferior races like humans. The old guard, Princess Lyralee said with understanding. They want to keep the Empire pure, isolated, superior. And a war with humans would give them the excuse they need to take over. Ambassador Cross, despite her injuries, was listening to everything. How long do we have? She asked. Jake checked the display again. They're setting charges in the engine room. When those blow, it will look like human sabotage. We have maybe 30 minutes. Can we stop them? Princess Lyralee asked. Maybe. But it will be dangerous. Very dangerous. Princess Lyralee stood up. Her royal composure was returning. But it was different now. Stronger. More real. Those raiders killed my guards. Good people who trusted me to keep them safe. General Thex betrayed everything my father stands for. And innocent people will die if we don't stop this. She looked directly at Jake. I'm with you, whatever it takes. Jake saw something in her eyes that had not been there before. Determination, courage, the willingness to fight for what was right even against her own people. All right, Jake said. But first we need to get the other prisoners to safety, and we need to understand exactly what we're up against. They spent the next few minutes studying the ship's systems. Princess Lyralee's knowledge of Zephyrian technology combined with Jake's tactical training made them an effective team. The engine room has 12 raiders, Jake said. Plus General Thex himself. He's here? Princess Lyralee asked. According to the ship's records, he came aboard this morning, said he had urgent business with you. He wanted to be here to see it happen, Princess Lyralee said bitterly. To watch his plan succeed. Jake looked at her carefully. Are you sure you can face him? He was like a father to you. Princess Lyralee's expression hardened. He stopped. Being a father to me the moment he decided my life was worth less than his politics. They made their way toward the engine room, leaving the other prisoners in a secure area. As they traveled through the ship, Jake taught Princess Lyralee basic combat techniques. Keep your weight balanced, he said. Use your opponent's strength against them. And remember, the goal is to survive, not to look pretty doing it. Princess Lyralee proved to be a quick learner. Her royal training had given her good reflexes and body control. She just needed to learn how to use them for fighting instead of dancing. Jake, she said during a quiet moment, when this is over, assuming we survive, I want to learn more about humans. Real learning, not the propaganda I was taught. Why? Jake asked. Because I was wrong about your people. Completely wrong. And if I was wrong about humans, what else have I been wrong about? Jake smiled. That's the smartest thing anyone has said on this whole diplomatic mission. They reached the engine room. Inside, they could hear General Thex giving orders. His voice was cold and commanding. Set the charges here and here, he was saying. When they explode, it will breach the containment field. The explosion will destroy half the ship. Princess Lyralee closed her eyes. This was really happening. Her mentor, her father's friend, was about to commit mass murder. Ready? Jake asked quietly. Princess Lyralee opened her eyes. They were filled with determination. Ready? Together they prepared to face the man who had betrayed everything they believed in. The final battle was about to begin. Jake and Princess Lyralee stood outside the engine room door. Through the small window they could see General Thex directing his raiders. The old Zephyrian was tall and powerful, with scars from many battles. His armor was black with silver decorations that showed his high rank. 12 raiders plus the general, Jake whispered. Bad odds. I have an idea, Princess Lyralee said. But you're not going to like it. She explained her plan quickly. Jake's eyes went wide. Absolutely not, he said. That's suicide. It's our only chance, she replied. You said yourself we need a distraction. Jake thought about it. He didn't like it, but she was right. They needed something to split up the enemy forces. All right, he said finally. But we do it my way. And at the first sign of trouble, you run. I don't run, Princess Lyralee said firmly. Not anymore. Jake looked at her with respect. The spoiled princess from the dining hall was truly gone. In her place stood a warrior. Princess Lyralee walked to the engine room door and pressed the entry button. It slid open with a soft hiss. "General Thex," she called out in her royal voice. "I demand to know what you are doing." The raiders spun around, weapons raised, but General Thex held up his hand to stop them. "Princess Lyra, he said with false surprise. "How wonderful to see you alive. I was told the raiders had killed you." "As you can see, I am very much alive," she said, walking into the room. "Now, explain to me why you are working with these criminals." General Thex smiled coldly. "Because sometimes, Princess, we must work with bad people to achieve good goals." "What good could possibly come from mass murder?" "The preservation of our empire," General Thex said. "Your father has gone soft. He makes deals with inferior species. He treats humans as equals. This must stop." Princess Lyra walked closer to him. The raiders kept their weapons trained on her, but they seemed unsure. She was their target, but she was also Zephyrian royalty. "So you decided to start a war," she said. "I decided to save our people from your father's weakness," General Thex replied. "When this ship explodes, it will look like human treachery. The Empire will demand revenge. We will drive the humans back to their little planet and keep them there." "And if thousands of innocent people die in the process?" General Thex shrugged. "The needs of the Empire come first." While they talked, Jake was moving. He used the maintenance shafts to get above the engine room. Princess Lyrelai's conversation with the general was keeping everyone distracted. Jake quietly removed a ceiling panel and dropped down behind 3 raiders. His improvised stunner took out 2 of them before the third could turn around. The remaining raiders spun toward the noise. This gave Princess Lyrelai her chance. She grabbed a heavy tool from a nearby workbench and swung it at the closest raider. Her royal training in combat dancing served her well. The tool connected with the raider's head, dropping him instantly. "Kill them both," General Thex shouted. The engine room erupted in chaos. Jake and Princess Lyrelai fought back to back, just like Jake had taught her. She used the techniques he had shown her, while he used every skill he had learned in years of combat. Princess Lyrelai was not as trained as Jake, but she was smart and determined. When a raider came at her with a knife, she used his momentum to throw him into a control panel. When another tried to grab her, she broke his grip with a joint lock Jake had taught her. Jake fought with deadly efficiency. He used the engine room's equipment as weapons. A wrench became a club. A piece of pipe became a staff. He turned the raiders' own weapons against them. General Thex watched the fight with growing anger. His perfect plan was falling apart because of a human and a princess who had forgotten her place. "Enough!" he roared. The general pulled out his own weapon. It was a plasma sword, a weapon of ancient Zephyrian design. The blade glowed with deadly energy. "I trained you, Princess," he said as he advanced on them. "I taught you everything you know about fighting. Did you really think you could defeat me?" "She doesn't have to defeat you alone," Jake said, stepping between them. General Thex laughed. "A human? You think a primitive human can face a Zephyrian sword master?" Jake picked up 2 pieces of metal debris from the fight. They were not swords, but they would have to do. "I think," Jake said calmly, "that you talk too much." The general attacked with fury. His plasma sword cut through the air with deadly precision. Jake barely managed to block the first strike with his improvised weapons. But Jake had learned something important during his time in space. Every species had different fighting styles. Zephyrians fought with honor and tradition. Humans fought to win. While General Thex used perfect sword forms, Jake used dirty tricks. He threw debris in the general's eyes. He kicked at his legs. He used the environment to his advantage. Princess Lyrelai joined the fight. She might not be as skilled as the general, but she knew his fighting style. She had trained with him for years. "He always drops his guard after a high attack," she called out to Jake. Jake nodded and used this information. When the general swung high, Jake ducked low and swept his legs. The general stumbled, and Princess Lyrelai hit him with a piece of metal pipe. The general recovered quickly, but he was angry now. Angry people make mistakes. He charged at Princess Lyrelay with a killing blow, but Jake was ready. He threw one of his metal pieces at the general's sword hand. The improvised weapon struck true, and the plasma sword went flying. Now it was 3 against 1, and General Thex was unarmed. The remaining raiders were either unconscious or too hurt to fight. General Thex fell to his knees. "You don't understand," he said desperately. "I was trying to save our empire. You were trying to destroy it," Princess Lyrelay said sadly. "My father wants to build something greater than an empire, a galaxy where all species work together." "Impossible," General Thex spat. "Humans are too primitive, too aggressive. They will never be our equals." Jake walked over to the bomb the raiders had been setting. With Princess Lyrelay's help, he quickly disarmed it. "General," Jake said quietly, "I just helped save your princess and your ship. I could have killed you, but I chose not to. I fought beside a Zephyrian as an equal. If that doesn't prove we can work together, nothing will." "General." Thex looked up at them. For a moment, Jake thought he might understand, but then his face hardened again. "This changes nothing," he said. "You may have won today, but others will continue my work." "Maybe," Princess Lyrelay said, "but they'll have to get through me first." Security forces finally arrived, led by Ambassador Cross. She looked tired but determined. "Is everyone all right?" she asked. "We are now," Jake replied. General Thex and the surviving raiders were taken into custody. The bombs were disarmed. The ship was safe. Later, in the ship's medical bay, Princess Lyrelay sat quietly while a doctor treated her cuts and bruises. Jake sat nearby, also being treated. "Jake," she said finally. "Yes, Your Highness?" "I want to make you an offer. In my culture, when someone saves your life and fights beside you as an equal, you can choose to bond with them. It's called an honor bond." Jake looked confused. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means I would be your partner in all things. We would work together, learn from each other. Our peoples would be connected through us." Jake thought about this. "That sounds like a big responsibility." "It is," Princess Lyrelay agreed. "But I think we've proven we work well together." Jake smiled. "I accept, Your Highness." "Good. And Jake?" "Yes?" "You can call me Lyrelay now. Partners don't need titles." 3 months later, Jake Morrison and Princess Lyrelay stood before the Galactic Council. They were there to present their plan for human-Zephyrian cooperation. Jake wore a new uniform that mixed human and Zephyrian designs. Lyrelay wore a dress that honored both cultures. "Members of the Council," Lyrelay said, "I stand before you today not as a Zephyrian princess, but as a representative of what our galaxy could become. When different species work together," Jake added, "we are stronger than the sum of our parts." In the audience, Ambassador Cross smiled with pride. General Thex's conspiracy had been exposed. The peace talks had resumed with new energy. But more importantly, a new kind of partnership had been born. One based not on dominance or submission, but on mutual respect and understanding. After their presentation, Jake and Lyrelay walked together through the council gardens. "Do you think we can really change things?" Lyrelay asked. "I think," Jake said, "that we already have." Above them, ships from dozens of worlds flew in formation. Human vessels flew beside Zephyrian cruisers. Other species had joined them, forming the largest peaceful fleet in galactic history. The galaxy was learning that strength came not from standing alone, but from standing together. And it had all started with 3 seconds in a dining hall when a quiet human security guard proved that sometimes the smallest actions can change the universe. Princess Lyrelay had called him weak. Now she stood beside him as an equal partner, ready to build a better future for all species. The Haughty Heir princess had indeed become his, not through conquest or domination, but through something far more powerful: mutual respect, trust, and the courage to fight for what was right. Their story was just beginning.